welcome to Scholars Universal Schools. The subjects we are having now is government. The topic we are going to consider for the SS2 government for today is pre-independence constitution. The topic again is pre-independence constitution. When we say pre-independence constitution, we are talking about the constitution that we used in Nigeria before the Nigeria got our independence. So when we say pre means before, then independence means freedom from colonial masters. And when we put everything together, that is telling us that the constitution used in Nigeria before the independence. Now, when we now look at the topic, you've been taught the meaning of constitution when you were in SS1, if you could recall. So constitution is the body of rules and regulations, custom, traditions, belief of a society which is codified and must be strictly adhered with by the leaders as well as the followers. So therefore, we cannot begin to talk about the post-independence constitution without talking about the pre-independence constitution. So the diagram we can see here is the diagram of our colonial masters and leaders during the colonial masters, or our nationalists, those who fight for the self-rule in the country. Then those who agitated for the constitution that will be used to rule and govern the country. Then when you look at the other picture here, is the picture of the Nigeria during the amalgamation. Nigeria was amalgamated in the year 1914. What we mean by that is that Nigeria became Nigeria in 1914 with a set of ethnic groups known as Hausa, Igbo, and Nigeria as one. Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba as one Nigeria. So I recapitulate. Nigeria was amalgamated in 1914 with the following ethnic groups: Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. So these are the three that were amalgamated in 1914 to become one Nigeria as we are today. So as it were, we now look at the various pre-independence constitution which we had in Nigeria. We had Clifford Constitution, we had Richard's Constitution, we have Matheson Constitution, as well as Littleton Constitution. So we shall be taking each of these pre-independence constitution one after the other. As a result of the demands of the National Congress of British West Africa, which brought about the introduction of the 1922 Constitution that was named after the then Governor General Sir Hood Clifford. Sir Hood Clifford was the head of the executive for the Nigeria colony under the administration of the Britain parliament and government. Sir Clifford is reporting back to the Britain and the Secretary General for Colonies, who will report back to the parliament then. So this constitution we are talking about, the Clifford Constitution, embraced the election of Nigerians to the executive councils. I said this constitution embraced the election of Nigerians to the executive council, and also it introduced or brought about democratic principles, the process of electing our representatives to represent us. Now, the picture you are looking at here is the picture of the then governor of Nigeria colony, Sir Hugh Clifford. Sir Hugh Clifford. And he was the first governor for the Nigeria colony. Then we go look at the features of the Clifford Constitution of 1922. It has some features, attributes, which we are going to examine. Number one, there was an executive council for the whole country. Now, when we say the executive council, this executive council is the body that formulates policies, rules and regulations, execute decisions, and enforce the rules and regulations in the country. So the executive councils was the one that saw to the day-to-day administration of Nigeria during the time of Sir Hugh Clifford. And it was only one executive council for the whole country. Don't forget that when we say whole country, we are talking about the whole of Nigeria, and comprised of what? The Hausa tribe, Yoruba tribe, and the Igbo tribe. Under this constitution, we had southern protectorates, northern protectorates, and Lagos colony. So these territories form the Nigeria as a country which the Clifford administer or govern then. I recapitulate. We had southern protectorates, northern protectorates, as well as Lagos colony under the administration of Sir Hugh Clifford with one executive council. Then the second one is that there was a legislative council composed of 46 official members. 27 of them were British, including the governor. Other 19 were non-officials. 10 of these 19 were Nigerians, including 3 elected members to represent Lagos and 1 elected member to represent Calabar. Let me explain this for understanding sake. There was a legislative council. When we say legislative council, this is a body that is charged with the responsibility of making laws, looking into rules and regulations for the governance of Nigeria under the British or as a Nigeria colony. And this composed of 46 official members. 27 of these official members were British. So, including in the governor, that is Sir Hugh Clifford, making it 27. Then we had other 19 members rather. We had other 19 members who were non-official. So out of these 19 members, 10 of these were Nigerians, including 3 Nigerians that were elected to represent Lagos and one that was elected to represent Calabar. These were the 2 major towns that we had then, and they had their representatives separately. Then the third one is that it introduced elective principle in Nigeria for the first time into the Legislative Council. Now, when we say elective principle, that is, it gave Nigeria the opportunity to vote their representatives into the Legislative Council. So there was no any form election before this constitution, but this constitution ushered in elective principle whereby Nigerians were given the opportunity to vote in the person or their representatives into the Legislative Council. Then we move to the number 4. The jurisdiction of the new Legislative Council was restricted to the Southern Province and Lagos Colony. Now, when we say jurisdiction of the new executives, we are talking about the area of coverage for the Legislative Council. Those areas that the Legislative Council will legislate on, and the areas are Southern Province and Lagos Colony. So Northern Province or Northern Protectorate was excluded. So the scope of their the scope of their operation is limited to the Northern Province and the Lagos Colony. Then the fifth one is that the law for the North were made by the governor proclamation. Now, the laws that were used to administer in the North were made by the governor, that is Sir Hugh Clifford. And this was based on what we call official statements from Sir Hugh Clifford, which is known as proclamation. Then the sixth one is that the country was divided into North Province, South Province, and Lagos Colony. 3 provinces or 3 territories. I recapitulate. The country was divided into North Province or Protectorates, South Province or Protectorates, and Lagos Colony. Then another good feature is that only male adults who earned up to £100 were allowed to participate in the election during voting. So anybody that would be allowed to vote under this constitution must earn up to £100 per annum, and such must have resided in the country for a year minimum before he could vote. Now, when we now look at this, we call this a restricted franchise. We recall in our SS2 work, we call it a restricted franchise, which could be limited to wealth and gender in the country. So that is, not everybody in the country was allowed to vote, but we had a kind of restricted franchise or suffrage. Now, when we now look at the picture here, the one on top, the top here is a picture of Lagos Colony. Lagos was annexed in 1881, and that is the picture. Then the building and other structure you see here is also related to that of Lagos colony. But note, you may be asked in the exam, the requirements for eligible voters, for the eligible voters in the Clifford Constitution, it is that anyone that will vote then will be earning up to £100. Take note, £100, and must have been residing in the country for at least 1 year. Take note of that. And for JAMB purpose, Lagos was annexed in 1881, so don't forget that. Then we now move further to the advantages of Clifford Constitution, which you can also call the significance of Clifford Constitution. 1. The Constitution abolished the previous Nigeria Council, that is abolition of the Nigeria Council. So the Constitution removed the previous Nigerian Council we had in place and replaced it or substituted it with Clifford Constitution, which brought an end to the then Nigeria Council because it was not effective for the administration of the country Nigeria. Then the second one is the new Executive Council. The Clifford Constitution brought in a new Executive Council in the country, and this new Executive Council in the country performed better. They carried out their function better than the earlier or the previous Nigeria Council. Don't forget, the functions of the Executive Council are to prepare and formulate policies, rules and regulations, to execute the laws, as well as to ensure that the laws are enforced in the society. So the council help in the betterment or better administration of Nigeria under the Governor General Sir Uche Clifford. Then the third one is opportunity to vote. It was the constitution that gave the Nigeria the opportunity for the first time to vote. People were able to vote in Lagos and Calabar. So in Lagos, 3 representatives to represent the Lagos at the Legislative Council were elected by Lagosians, and in Calabar as well, a representative was elected. Then let's go to the fourth one. The Clifford Constitution served as the basis for future constitution. So the Clifford Constitution served as the foundation for other constitutions that were drafted in the country. What are the other constitutions that were drafted in the country, which the Clifford Constitution served as the basis for? We are talking about Richard Constitution, we are talking about Matheson Constitution, we are talking about Literative Constitution, we are talking about our Independence Constitution and other post-independence constitution. So you now agree with me that Clifford Constitution has served as what? The basis for the future constitution that we are talking about. So the constitution serves as the basis for every review made up to date. Then the picture you are looking at here is the Legislative Council picture. I mean the Legislative Council picture. which shows those who are representing us in the Legislative Council. Then we as we continue with other advantages of the Clifford Constitution, we have political activities. The Clifford Constitution encouraged political activities in the country. It gave room for the formation of political parties, and it facilitated the representation of people into the Legislative Council. So the political parties that were formed presented their candidates to be elected to represent in Lagos and Calabar respectively, and in the Southern Province. So it served as the basis for political activities and democratic dispensation that we are enjoying today. Then the sixth one is the establishment of newspapers. The Clifford Constitution encouraged the establishment of newspapers, and a number of newspaper firms rather, were established. A number of newspaper firms were established, the likes of Lagos Daily News and West African Pilot. So these newspaper firms serve as the means of creating of awareness. They created awareness and political consciousness for independence and self-rule. They enlighten and educate people on how we can attain independence and rule ourselves, how we can elect our free representative to represent us and be free from colonial masters or foreign rule in the country. The picture you are looking at here is a picture of the newspapers that we had then, the likes of West African Pilots, Daily Times, and all others in West Africa. Then we look at advantages of Clifford Constitution. So we have a number of disadvantages, which we also see as demerits as well of the Clifford Constitution. Number one is the domination by Europeans. The number one is domination by Europeans. The Legislative Council was dominated by the Europeans instead of Nigerians, and this hindered the protection of Nigerians' interests in the country. So since we are unable to have many of our Nigerian representatives in the Legislative Council, the interest of the masses could not be protected to the extent that it was supposed to be protected. So we had many of the Europeans dominated, and the interest of the Nigerian masses were not adequately protected, and it had adverse effects on Nigeria. Then the second one is isolation of northern Nigeria. Don't forget that earlier on in our earlier explanation, I said Northern Province of Protectorate and Lagos Colony were directly administered by the Legislative Council of Nigeria. That Northern Nigeria was in isolation. That Northern Nigeria was under the Governor General, who made proclamation, official statements on the rules and regulations for the conduct of the Northern Nigeria. And note, we said Nigeria was amalgamated in 1914, and we had Northern Protectorate, Southern Protectorate, Lagos Colony, that we are supposed to be under one Legislative Council. which also had negative effect, were not seen as one Nigeria with this kind of arrangement for the Legislative Council. So Nigerians were not treated as one by isolating northern Nigeria from the Legislative Council. Then the third one is limited franchise. The imposition of £100 for the male adults to vote disenfranchised many Nigerians. Our female gender was disenfranchised. Those who could not earn up to £100 per annum disenfranchised. So this is a kind of limited franchise which is which produced the representatives that are not the that are not chosen by everyone or everybody in Nigeria, but a set of people in Nigeria. And eventually there will be no a proper representation. Then another thing is the picture we are looking at here. So it just shows this is just showing the kind of engineering rules and other domineering strategies and domination of the what of the colonial masters when they were here ruling the country, as one of the disadvantages we had using their various policies and rules and regulations. Then the fourth one is the executive council. The majority of the council members were British, not Nigerians. The executive council we had then, many of those who were nominated because they were not elected were British. Many of them were British. So therefore, it does not represent through executive council for Nigerians to prepare policies, rules and regulation, execute and enforce law for the country. Then the fifth one is concentration of power. When we say concentration of power, that means the power is concentrated in the hands of a particular government or a person in government. So the power under the Clifford Constitution was too much concentrated in the hands of the Governor General, the governor rather, who happened to be Sir Hood Clifford. So he single-handedly legislates for the North and also intervene in the activities of the Legislative Council for the Southern Protectorate of Province and Lagos Colony, because we had many of the British officials dominating and is imposing for them. So these are the disadvantages or the merits of the Sir Clifford Constitution. So for further readings, you can consult government essential textbook, another government textbook, and WAEC past questions and answer and all others for better understanding or and to study further. Then we have a number of exercises for you to attempt here. So when you look under the contents above, we have the exercises which you are expected to attempt, as well as the assignments which you are expected to attempt. So, and these assignments must be submitted by weekend. So all the exercises and the assignments must be submitted by weekend, and with this we have come to the end of the class for today. But don't forget, we have looked at the pre-independence constitution, and we have talked about the Clifford Constitution. We talked about the features of the Clifford Constitution. We talked about the advantages and disadvantages of Clifford Constitution. Then you have exercises to embark on the assignment. So you have to go through them, study hard. So as you are doing this, God bless you and stay safe. Thank you very much. So this is for Scholars Universal Schools. Thank you.